Okay, here we go. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Yolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon Bechol HaShalom. Ki atahu melech Adon B'chol HaShalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha livorech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol ed uv'chol shab b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim
Bravo, Gary. Achi. Wonderful. Cynthia, would you like to start reading? This is Genesis 32, verse 4. Jacob and Esau are going to be reunited.
Okay. Jacob now sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir in the countryside of Edom. He instructed them as follows: "Say this to my lord Esau. Thus says your servant Jacob, with Laban have I stayed and have lingered until just now. I came to own cattle, donkeys, sheep, and male and female slaves, and I am sending my lord this message in the hope of pleasing you." When the messengers came back to Jacob, they said, "We went to your brother Esau, and he, too, accompanied by 400 men, is marching to meet you." Jacob was terrified. So anxious was he that he divided the people who were with him and the flocks, the herds, and the camels into two camps. He thought, if Esau advances on the first camp and strikes it, the remaining camp will be able to escape. Then Jacob said, "God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, eternal God who says to me, return to your native land and I will make things go well with you. I am unworthy of all the proofs of mercy and all the faithfulness that you have shown your servant. For I crossed this Jordan with nothing but my walking stick, and now I have become these two camps. Save me, I pray, from my brother's hand, from Esau's hand. I am afraid of him, lest he advance on me and strike me, mother falling on child. Yet you said, I will make things go well with you and make your descendants like the grains of sand along the seashore, which are too many to be counted." After spending the night there, he chose an offering for his brother Esau from what was at hand: 200 goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milk camels and their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses and 10 he-asses. He put his slaves in charge of each drove separately, saying to his slaves, "Pass before me and leave some distance between one drove and the next." He instructed the first as follows: "If my brother Esau meets you and asks you, 'To whom do you belong? Where are you going? And whose are these ahead of you?' say, 'These are your servants Jacob's. It is an offering sent to my lord Esau, and in fact, he is following close behind us.'" He instructed the second, two, and the third as well, and all the others who were to follow the drove, saying, "This is what you shall tell Esau when you find him. And say as well, and in fact, your servant Jacob is coming behind us." For he reasoned, I will win him over with an offering in advance. Then, when I face him, he may pardon me. And so the offering went on ahead while he remained in camp that night. That same night, he got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 children and crossed at a ford of the Jabbok River. After taking them across the stream, he sent across all that he owned. Now Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the rise of dawn. When the man saw that he could not overcome him, he struck Jacob's hip socket, so that Jacob's hip socket was wrenched as the man wrestled with him. Then he said, let me go. Dawn is breaking. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The other said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. No more shall you be called Jacob, but Israel, said the other. For you have struggled with God and with human beings, and you have prevailed. Then Jacob asked, pray tell me now your name. But he said, why do you ask my name? And then he took his leave of him.
Can I say something real quick? Something important.
Absolutely.
And this is like one of the 3 places, like in the Torah, where we see this. The first time we see a similar situation is in the Garden of Eden, after they eat the apple, and God comes in and says, where are you? In other words, it's a question that God knows the answer to, but the meaning of the question, it also, when Moses is holding his staff and God turns it into a snake, and God says, what's that in your hand? And it's a question like this, when he says, when he's asked, what is your name? It's a question that it's significant, because it's a question that's asked when something significant is going to happen. Like when Adam and Eve are asked this question, it's because they're going to be leaving the Garden of Eden.
That's right. That's right.
When God asked Moses, what's that in his hand? He knows, he turns it into a... In this case, it's like he's asking Jacob, so he's almost like saying, it's a way of like Jacob reflecting on himself, and it's like saying, are you still like Jacob the deceiver, or are you now Israel, who's struggled with
person.
Man and God,
right,
and
prevailed.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's these 3 similar questions, like, and they're very significant.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love those. That's awesome. I never even thought of that. That is awesome that God already knows the answer. That's excellent. And it's significant.
And the question, it's like in here, when he asks for a blessing, the question itself is the blessing.
Mm-hmm.
In actuality.
Wow.
Because it...
All right, so I want to introduce this concept that Chabad was talking about last week. So one of the things they spoke a lot about a lot of different things, but the thing that really interested me was they were saying that Jacob and Esau might be viewed as one and the same person, like 2 elements of the same person. And I was like, what? That's incredible. Like they're struggling with each other, and they're always, and this guy wants to get the birthright from the other guy. And I was thinking, wow, that's a heavy concept. And then I thought, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's right. Because who's that guy? Sigmund Freud. Didn't he have that idea too? Like there's the id and the superego, and the id only wants things for itself, right? Wasn't that something? So I'm thinking like that might be a awesome way to look at it, because it's kind of like Jacob has got the better ideas of always being together with God, even when he's in this portion right here. He doesn't know he doesn't know if Esau is going to kill him because he stole the birthright, or no, he didn't steal it. He kind of bartered for it, but he also, last time he saw Esau said, I'm going to kill that guy. And Esau's a tough dude. Esau's the tough dude. So, but the beauty of it is that it almost shows a great illustration, because if you think about the Freud concept, I mean, it was like a cartoon character, right? I'm going to take my screen away for a minute, because that it's always the oh, that's not it either. Oh, the id and the superego, these cartoons, but it's like one of those cute, like cartoony things, but it's a real concept, right? And so if you think about the way the Bible, the way the Torah is describing this, it's almost like if you think about the superego having that morality, which is Jacob, and then the id being Esau, that if people, anybody, can put Jacob first and then have Esau, that powerful like animal type of thing, serve that greater good, then what a concept that would be. And I don't want to take too much time on it tonight, because I think we can talk about it even more so when Joseph comes into view, because I think Joseph of anybody probably did this in order to be as effective as he was as a leader, and as someone who was able to really feel the pain of prison and being dejected by his family and everything else. But
Okay.
anyway, just the concept. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Mike.
Okay, Michael, one important point in this particular couple of paragraphs that we have just finished.
Yep.
Okay, so Jacob struggles with the man, throughout the night, and neither one of them can win. And then in the morning, the man touches Jacob in the thigh, and then all of a sudden, Jacob starts limping. Okay, two things in here. First, I'm going to start with a medical, and the other one is going to be a little more religious, because this is going to have something to do with koshering animals. Okay, so first the medical side. What do you think would happen? Just think about anatomy for a minute. How can somebody touch you in the socket of your thigh and all of a sudden you start limping? What would have happened?
A break.
Or he put it out of joint, right? He would have knocked it out.
Okay, that's true. If you sever the sciatic nerve,
Right.
if you sever the sciatic nerve, you don't have control of your leg anymore.
Correct.
Now, in order to make an animal kosher,
Have to do that.
you have to go into both sciatic nerves of the animal and take them out because of this thing that we just read.
Wow.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's probably where it comes from.
That's
That's
amazing.
where it comes from.
Who would like to pick it up at 31? That's interesting. That's really great. Yeah, because, and then that's kind of explained in 33.
It says right in the Torah that we don't eat that because of that. Doesn't
Yeah.
it, Dr.
Right.
Mike? It says
Well,
right in the Torah.
I think that bracha, since it's gotten so cold in Florida, do you know that it's 72 here and everybody is absolutely panicked?
Jacob therefore named that place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face. Yet my life has been spared. The sun shone on him as he was leaving Peniel, and he was limping on account of his thigh. To this day, that is why the people of Israel do not eat the thigh muscle that is in the socket of the hip, because he struck Jacob's hip socket at the thigh muscle.
Nice.
When Jacob was looking into the distance, he beheld Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Rachel's two maids. He placed the maids and their children in front, Leah and her children next, with Rachel and Joseph last. He himself went on ahead of them and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. Esau, though, ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they burst in tears. When Esau looked around and saw the women and the children, he said, "What is yours?" Jacob answered, "The children with whom God has favored your servant." Then the lesser wives with their children approached and bowed down. Leah too approached with her children and bowed down. Afterward, Joseph and Rachel approached and bowed down. Esau said, "What is all this camp that I came across yours?" And Jacob replied, "Yes, it is all I meant to favor to find favor in the sight of my Lord. Esau said, I have an abundance, my brother. Let what is yours be yours. Jacob said, no, please. If I have truly found favor in your sight, take the offering from my hand. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. And you have already, you have already shown me favor.
Yeah.
Please accept my gift of blessing that has been presented to you. God has been gracious to me, and I have all that I need. Jacob kept on pressing him until Esau accepted. Esau then said, let us start on our way. I will go at your side. But Jacob answered, my Lord knows that the children are delicate and that I have to think about the sheep and cattle that are nursing. If they drive them hard a single day, the small cattle will perish. Let my Lord go on ahead of his servant. As for myself, let me proceed on my way at my own pace, following the footsteps of the livestock in front of me and following the footsteps of the children until I catch up to my Lord near Seir. Esau said, pray let me then leave behind with you a portion of the force that accompanies me. But Jacob said, why should my Lord show me such favor? So that day Esau started back on his way to Seir, while Jacob went on to Succoth, where he built a house for himself and shelters for his livestock. That is why the place was called Succoth.
Wow.
Sukkot.
Is that the
Mhm.
holidays named that?
Yeah,
This?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing.
Thus Jacob, in his journey from Padan Aram, arrived safely in the city of Shechem, in the land of Canaan. He made camp facing the city. He bought the portion of the field where he had pitched his tent from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 weight. He then set up an altar, calling it, let me see the Hebrew, El Elohei Israel. One day, Dinah, Leah's daughter, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the women of the locality. And Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, the local prince, saw her. He took her and laid her down and raped her. He was then captivated by Jacob's daughter, Dinah, and falling in love with the young woman, spoke tenderly to the young woman. So Shechem said to his father, Hamor, obtain this girl for me as my wife.
Okay.
At the time that Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled.
Hold on for a second. Michael, if you can go back a little bit, so you can see the references. Okay, take a look at 17 Sukkot.
Okay. Oh, right. Down in the bottom, you mean?
Down at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
So read what it says about Sukkot, which means like a hut or a
stalls
little
or booths. Yeah.
So that's where Sukkot comes in.
The place was slightly north of Jabbok.
Okay, so the making up like a little hut without a roof, it's called a Sukkot. And that's why during the festival of Sukkot, whatever we build, you must be able to see the stars through it. But that's where the name comes from.
Wow, that's great. All right, we're getting into this this very sad scene of Dinah, unfortunately. And why don't we pick it up? Wow, somebody just brought me some dinner. Oh, hello. Do you want to continue? Bracha at 5? I think it's 5. That's where.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. At the time that Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the field with his livestock. So he kept quiet until they came back. Shechem's father, Hamor, now went to Jacob to speak with him. And meanwhile, Jacob's sons had returned from the field. When they heard, the men were grieved and became extremely angry, for he had committed an outrage against Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter. Such things were not done. Hamor now spoke with them, saying, my son Shechem has set his heart on your daughter. Pray give her to him for pray give her to him to be his wife. Make marriages with us. Give us your daughters, and you yourselves take our daughters. Live among us, and the land will be before you. Settle and trade here and acquire property here. And Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, let me but find favor in your sight, and I will give you whatever you ask. Exact from me bridal money and gifts to excess, yet I will pay whatever you demand of me. Only give me the girl to be my wife. The sons of Jacob answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceptively, speaking thus because he had defiled their sister Dinah. They said to them, we cannot do this thing, giving our sister to a man who has a foreskin, for this is a shame to us. Only on this condition will we consent to you. If you become like us by having every one of your males circumcised, then we would give you our daughters and would take your daughters and settle among you and become one people. But if you do not listen to us and consent to be circumcised, we shall take our daughter and leave. Their words seemed good to Hamor and Hamor's son Shechem, and the youth did not delay doing this thing, for he yearned for Jacob's daughter, and he was preeminent in his father's household. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city and spoke to their fellow citizens, saying, these people are peaceably disposed towards us. They will settle in the land and trade here. Plainly, the land is open wide on every side before them. We will take to wife their daughters and give our daughters to them. But only on this condition have these people agreed to settle among us and become one people. Every male among us must be circumcised as they are circumcised. Their livestock and their possessions, all their animals will be ours. Let us consent to them, that they may settle among us. All who went out of the city gate listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male, every able-bodied man was circumcised. On the third day, when they were in the greatest pain, the two sons of Jacob, Shimon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword. They went undisturbed into the city and killed every male. And they also killed Hamor and his son Shechem by the sword. Then, taking Dinah from Shechem's house, they left. Jacob's other sons went over the slain and plundered the city, whose inhabitants had defiled their sister, taking their sheep, their cattle, and their donkeys, and all that was in the city and in the countryside, and all their wealth, their little ones, and their wives, and all that was in the houses, they seized as captives and as spoil. Jacob then said to Shimon and Levi, you have made trouble for me by making me odious to the land's inhabitants, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Since I am few in number, they will gather themselves against me and strike at me, and I and my household will be destroyed. But they said, should he then have been allowed to treat our sister like a whore?
Wow.
God now said to
you want to
Jacob,
talk about this for a minute? I mean, this is kind of a pretty big deal, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, this is why Anita, if you notice that we talked about last week, Anita Diamond wrote a book about this, about Dinah. And what she was claiming was that actually that Dinah was meeting the son in secret, had fallen in love with him. And it wasn't really a rape. And the brothers didn't care, and they went about and did whatever they did. And they were wrong. But you never hear about Dinah anymore. This is it. You never hear a word about her anymore. This is the only
she
thing you hear about her in Torah.
married somebody in Joseph's time.
They don't even talk about her anymore.
And you don't hear about her response to it either. You don't hear about
No.
response to.
I know.
No, that's why the midrash, what Ania Diamond was writing was a midrash about that, and it was very interesting. It's called The Red Tent. If anybody wants to read it.
Okay. I mean, it's a really
The brothers still had a good plan, though. You know,
Yeah, I
get
mean,
rid of everybody.
you know, it's
Oh, really?
a little bit overboard, but you know,
Murder
hey,
is a good thing.
here's the
Murder
thing.
is a good thing. I don't think so.
The thing is that they have a lot more settling in to do in the land, and I think we're probably going to see as this story moves forward that no one's going to mess with this group of people after this whole episode. I mean, it's going to be like, you know, don't mess with the Israelites.
Yeah, but Mike, Jacob was completely against it.
Yeah.
He was very angry.
He was very
Yeah.
angry. He was hurt. He was angry
Mhm.
that his sons had actually done this thing. So, you know, one thing is to have a rape, but if the man consents to marry the woman, then shouldn't that be like an
He made a deal with
Oh,
he made a deal with the father.
Plus,
No.
plus Jake,
No, that's
I
not
agree.
okay.
No, it is not. It is,
No, that's
it is-
not okay.
they went ahead like Jacob was their father, like, and they kind of went
Annie,
underneath him.
this is biblical times.
Right.
In
Yeah,
biblical
but
times,
Yeah.
what
It's
he
different.
just said about that if never mind.
Right. I
it's
know
not
what
right.
mean.
You're right. It's not right.
Okay. And in fact, the brothers obviously were very angry, and you know, the dignity of their sister was kind of at stake here, I feel, because they say right out there at number 31, they said, should he then be allowed to treat our sister like a whore? I mean, that's like,
Right.
that spells it right out, right? I mean, it's like,
They were not happy.
and I mean, Jacob obviously trying to play peacemaker a little bit. And I'm sure Jacob had probably poured his heart out to Dinah about what had happened. I know that there's nothing about that here, but as a father, having this happen to his daughter, his only daughter,
Only daughter.
I would imagine Jacob had feelings of utter grief for her. And I'm sure I mean, I can't imagine him not saying anything. He most likely talked to her and tried to console her. Because it's a sad situation.
I don't know. I don't know how women were considered in biblical times.
But anyway, why don't we continue on? We have a lot of ground to cover still. Does anyone mind if I read? I haven't read in a while.
Go ahead.
Thank you. God now said to Jacob, get up, go up to Bethel and settle there, erect an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from the presence of your brother Esau. Jacob thereupon said to his household and all who were with him, get rid of the foreign gods in your midst, purify yourselves and change your clothing. Let us get moving and go up to Bethel, that I might build an altar there to the God who responds to me in my time of distress, who has been with me on the road that I have traveled. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they were holding in the rings in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak near Shechem. As they journeyed, the dread of God fell upon the cities around them, so that they did not pursue Jacob's clan. It's interesting that they have these gods again. They keep all these little gods come bubbling up here. Anyway. And Jacob came to Luz in the land of Canaan, that is Bethel, he and all the folk with him. There he built an altar and called that sacred site El of Bethel, for there, in his flight from his brother, God had been revealed to him. And Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried below Bethel under the oak. So he named it the Oak of Weeping.
Oh.
God appeared to Jacob again on his return from Paddan Aram and blessed him. God said to him, Jacob is your name, but Jacob are you called no more, for Israel is your name.
Yeah.
Thus God named him Israel. And God said to him, I am El Shaddai. Be fruitful and multiply. Where have we heard that before, Gary?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Michael, a quick
Saying
one.
that at church.
In English, what is the translation of El Shaddai?
I don't know. That's a great question. I looked that up the other day, and it was very, I don't
God
know. Is it like
Almighty.
God Almighty?
God Almighty.
Is that right? Oh,
Yeah.
excellent. Okay, a people and a host of people shall come from you, and the king shall go forth from your loins.
Hmm.
And the land that I gave to Abraham and to Isaac, I will give to you, and to your descendants after you will I give you the land. And the presence of God ascended from him at that sacred site where God had spoken to him. Jacob set up a monument in that sacred site where God had spoken to him, a pillar of stone. He then poured out a libation upon it and anointed it with oil. Jacob named the place where God had spoken to him Bethel.
All right, Michael, hold it right here for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. He anointed it with oil. A question for everybody. What kind of oil did Jacob use?
Wow. I don't know.
Must have been olive oil, right?
Olive oil.
Olive oil.
Olive oil.
So Jacob takes olive oil, the best type of, the best quality olive oil that he can get. He pours it onto the stone. That's how he anoints the stone, and that becomes the pillar, for blessing God and making all of the pronouncements to God. When the kings of Israel were anointed, they were anointed by pouring oil on their head.
Right.
That's where it comes from.
Interesting.
Right.
Yep. And then in the Christian tradition, we do also have when a baby's baptized or somebody's baptized, sometimes it's also marked with the chrism oil, is what we call it.
Yeah.
That's another oil.
Do you know what kind of oil would they use?
That's a really good question. I don't think it's olive oil because it's more of a sticky kind of pasty type of oil.
Okay.
And the cardinal or the bishop blesses it once a year. It's called the chrism mass, where they bless all the oils that get sent out to the churches after that.
Okay.
Anyways, so I'm sure it comes from something like this or something.
It probably does. Yeah.
All right. They then journeyed from Bethel, and Bethel means house of God.
House of
House of God.
God.
The house of God.
Absolutely. They then journeyed from Bethel, and there was still some ground to cover before reaching Ephrath, when Rachel went into labor, and her labor was difficult. And as her labor was difficult for her, the midwife said to her, "Don't be afraid. This one, too, will be a son for you." And as her life was leaving her, for she was dying, she named him Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. Rachel died and was buried on the road to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a pillar by her burial site. It is the monument at Rachel's tomb to this day.
This is what I was telling you about the other day. Rachel's tomb is on the road to Bethlehem, and women who are barren, who want to conceive, go and pray at Rachel's tomb so that they can become pregnant.
That's
okay. And Michael, the word Benjamin.
I'm looking at that right now. Yeah.
Benjamin, son of the south.
That's
or son of the right, or son of my right hand. That's what it means.
Wow. And so she named him son of my suffering or strength, or it could be strength.
Something like that.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So son of something. So Ben-Yamin. Ben meaning son of.
Meaning son of, right.
Yeah.
Son of old age. Wow. Okay.
Well, she named him one thing, and then Jacob called him Benjamin.
Right. So
She gave him a different name.
That's right. So she named, this is the commentary underneath the passage. It's Ben-Oni is understood as son of my suffering or strength.
Right.
Dr. Mike was saying son of Benjamin is son of the south or son of the right hand.
Right. Because I guess Jacob didn't want him to be called son of suffering.
That's exactly
renamed him.
Yeah, whatever the meaning, Jacob apparently did not want his son to live with the name Ben-Oni, which recalls grief. And it also is possible that the names refer to Rachel's theft of the household gods and the oath Jacob had sworn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something. Benoni then would mean son of my iniquity, and Benjamin, son of my oath. Wow, this goes,
Right.
they go deep into this, don't they? Wow.
This is heavy.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. This whole portion is big. Okay. Number 21. Israel then resumed his journey and pitched his tent beyond the Tower of Ader. Now, while Israel was residing in that area, Reuben went and lay with his father's concubine Bilhah in Israel. Wow.
A lot of hanky-panky
You're
going on in those
talking
days.
about what the guy did with their sister, and look what they going to.
I know. No one's got clean hands around here.
I mean, they got no clean hands.
What were you going to
These guys were
say,
not good.
Cynthia? What did you say? I'm sorry.
No, the comment I made was there was a lot of hanky-panky going along.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Wow. All right. I think, and now we go through the line of Jacob and the line of Esau. So
Oh yeah.
why don't we, does anyone want to take the sons of Jacob were 12 in number?
Okay, why don't I do it quickly?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the sons of Jacob were 12 in number. Leah's sons were Jacob's firstborn Reuben, Shimeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Rachel's sons were Joseph and Benjamin. So because, she died giving birth to Benjamin.
Right.
Now, each one of them, both Leah as well as Rachel, gave their handmaiden to Jacob. And Jacob had sons with her. So now we're going to take a look at their sons. The sons of Bilhah, that's Rachel's maid, Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah was Leah's handmaiden, were Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, born to him in Padan Aram.
And they are the tribes. They're the 12 tribes.
Well, there's the 12. But notice that 2 of them came from wives and the other 2 were from handmaidens.
Handmaidens, right?
Yeah.
Concubines.
Concubines.
At one point, somebody said that the maids were really also Leah and Rachel's sisters.
Oh, okay, I never heard that.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that one too. That's also midrash.
I was just gonna. I'm glad that you said the midrash. I think, Michael, that what we need to point out is that especially when you go to a place like Chabad or the Orthodox, they tend to have both the midrash as well as the Torah. You got the Torah, which is the 5 books of Moses, okay, and then you've got the midrash, and then you've got the Talmud. Now, many times they confuse these, or they talk about the 2 as if they were coming from one. So what we just heard in here, we're reading from the Bible. So this is biblical.
Right.
The other one is rabbinical.
Mhm.
Right.
So we need to make a distinction between biblical and rabbinical. Rabbinical, they're trying to interpret things. They're trying to get,
Like Talmud is like that, yeah.
right. So to say that they were sisters, that's rabbinical. That is not biblical.
That is not in Torah, no.
Yeah.
That is correct. So I think we need to point that out as we go through this thing.
Okay. That sounds good.
What about the fact that we talk about how women were treated like property, but yet we see these situations where women that are barren, encourage their husbands to, be with the concubine or the handmaids or whatever.
Yes, Gary, but at the very least,
Interesting.
I'm going to try to give you a little bit of an argument here. One thing is when a woman is forced to do something, and the other one is when she herself wants to do it. So let's say that you've got Rachel. Rachel was barren, okay? She never thought that she was going to have children, boys or girls, doesn't make any difference, children. Let's just say children. If she's barren and she knows that the problem is hers rather than Jacob, because it could have been from the man too. Okay, so if you have a couple that doesn't have children, in 90% of the cases, it's a problem with the woman, but it's about 10 or 15% percent of the cases is the man. But Rachel saw that Leah had children with Jacob, so the problem could not have been Jacob. She, on her own volition, said, "Why don't I give you my handmaiden?" But at least it came from her.
Oh, I agree with
I
you.
got a question.
But
I have a question,
I'm not
Dina.
like disputing that. I'm just saying that
Dina's
it's
mother?
interesting that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Hang on a second, Maureen. Go ahead, Gary. What were you saying? Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that I agree with you, Doctor. I'm saying it's just interesting that, like, it's just weird, like, that you wouldn't think, like, nowadays of a barren woman saying, like, well, I'd like you to get together with my friend and, maybe you could produce a child that will be
That's not
mine.
true. They're a surrogate. There are surrogates all the time.
Surrogate mothers. As a,
Yeah.
I was just
There
gonna
are surrogate. There are surrogate mothers. That's exactly what they do.
Yeah.
And as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, since Maureen said that, you have a surrogate mother,
Absolutely.
okay, so what I can tell you is the following. There are many, many cases which are now, in the legal rulings of different states.
It's very hard. Yeah,
If a surrogate mother wants to get her child,
that's correct. They can. She can.
she might be able to get it back.
That's correct.
That's correct.
But there are many people who have surrogate mothers because they can't bear a child,
Mhm.
and they pay for everything so that they can have them. So basically, it's the same kind of thing.
Mhm.
Or if you take an adopted child, theoretically, you don't know who the mother is, but many times the mother has shown up and said, "That is my son or my daughter."
6 months.
But
They
I
have 6
also
months.
think that nowadays a surrogate, it would be done via a medical procedure that wasn't available back in those days.
No, that's true.
I think back in those days there was only one way to do it.
Oh, that's correct.
Okay,
Right.
okay, but it came from the man.
That's correct.
And
This
then
way, you're right. You're right, Gary.
she's artificially inseminated.
Right.
Correct. I have a question. Who was Dina's mother?
I think it was Leah.
Leah.
Was
Yeah,
it Leah? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
thought. Yeah. And then we don't, it's unfortunate we don't see her in this line. I mean, oops, I moved
I
it.
told you.
Yeah.
She's never mentioned again.
Yeah, it's so sad.
Well, and
Boy,
Yes,
she's a girl.
Michael, if you
he is mentioned.
She is mentioned, Braca?
where?
Yes, in Joseph's time. When we get to Joseph,
We'll get to it. Is that
she
is that-
marries.
is that biblical or
She
is that
marries in Joseph's family.
okay?
Is it biblical?
Michael, we'll hold
From the
on to
Torah?
that one until we get to that story.
Absolutely. We're gonna hold our thought
Okay.
on that one, and we'll pick up with that. Okay, Dr. Mike, do you want to continue? I think we're getting too close to the end anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number
Jacob
26.
came to his father Isaac at Mamre, near Kiryat Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had sojourned. The years of Isaac's life came to 180. Isaac then breathed his last and died. He was gathered to his people, old and full of years, and his son Esau and Jacob buried him. By the way, when Sarah died, two of her sons were there too. We're going to see that tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, so this is the line of Esau, that is Edom. In other words, the Edomites came from Esau.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay, so Esau took the wives and the daughters of Canaan, Ada, daughter of Elon the Hivite, and Oholibama, daughter of Anna, daughter of Sibeon the Hivite, and Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, Nebaioth's sister. Ada bore Eliphaz to Esau, and Basemath bore Reuel. Ohilabama. It sounds like Barack Obama.
You're getting close. Yeah, it's awesome.
Hey, I tell you, bore Jush, Jalam, and Korah, and these are the sons of Esau born to him in the line of Canaan.
Oh, Cora, we hear that name before. That comes up later, right? That comes up with.
Korah.
Sure does.
Okay.
You want me to keep going, Mike, or somebody else?
No, I think we're getting to the end. I mean, do we want to talk tackle these names? Because it's Esau.
No, it's a whole bunch of them that
Yeah, there's a lot of names, but he took wives and sons and all the people of his household, his livestock, cattle, all his possessions acquired in the land of Canaan. He went to another region, right? I mean, this is what I've heard is Esau becomes Edom, and Edom eventually turns
The
into
Edomites,
Rome.
yeah.
Is that, has anyone heard that Edom turns into Rome?
Yes.
Yeah, supposedly.
Yeah.
That's what they were talking about at Chabad too. Rome.
Sure.
Anyway, so yeah, Esau settled in the hill country of Seir. Esau is also called Edom. This is then the line of Esau, progenitor of the Edomites, and
A whole bunch of people.
country. And there's a lot of people. Yeah. So why don't we just look at them quietly? We look at all the Torah. All the words are good. Look at the Hebrew words too. They're good. Everything is
Oh
important.
boy.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, it's going to take a long time. Oh, and then the clan of Korah comes up again. Korah and the clan of Amalek. All these names kind of come up again.
The Amalekites. The Amalekites.
Amalekites.
Are not good people.
All right, and then again, we're just going forward. There's a lot of names here. So again, the clan of Korah. It's these. No, the Korah though was part of Moses's group, right?
It's Korah.
Korah.
No, that was Korach.
Oh, Korah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because then we're going to talk about the Korach rebellion.
Ah.
You know, when we get to the book of Exodus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is one of the Torah parshiot that isn't named after somebody.
That's
Jewish.
right. In fact, it's the only
That's
one.
Israelite.
Hey, Gary, you
got Jethro, you got Yitro.
Yitro.
Oh, Yitro. Yes.
Yitro.
Boy, I tell you, from somebody from Malden, you sure as hell know your stuff.
Oh my God.
Oh, you know, I got
Oh,
Malden via.
very good.
Woo! It's getting hot in here. Woo!
What do you mean?
All right, so I'm just looking through this. So these Esau's clan go on and on and on. Wow,
Yeah, there's lots of people there.
it's amazing.
But because I think they're talking about the progenitors of all the different peoples who were eventually against the Israelites, and Israel had to do away with most of them.
Wow. Well, yep, that's the portion for this week because that's how it ends. These are the clans of Edom. That is Esau, the progenitor of the Edomites, and their settlements in the land they possess.
Yeah.
That's how it ends. So.
Oh, jeez. I'm telling you.
With that, let's say good night and God bless. And Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. One.
God bless everybody.
God bless.
Bye, Latov.